Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Today we are going to talk about how you can build the best budget for financial independence. I'm going to give you the outline that you need to know on how to design your own FIRE budget, because your FIRE budget is going to be probably significantly different than what your current budget is. The first thing that you definitely need to do is start with what your current spending is. Okay, this should be one of the easiest steps. So you're just going to take your baseline, like what is your income right now, how much are you spending per month? So that is what approximately what your current budget is. In order to do this, it's pretty easy. So you'll take what your take-home pay is. So let's say that your take-home pay is $100,000 per year. And that's just because it's an easy number to use. And let's also say that you're saving for financial independence and you want to get there rather quickly, and so you're saving 50% of your take-home pay. So that means that you're left with $50,000 per year of spending. Okay, so that means that's your current baseline. That's where your current budget is at. Even if you're not planning on spending that much, that's pretty much what you're at if you're saving 50% of your income. So $50,000, we'll start with that. That's your baseline income. But it gets better because once you achieve financial independence, your expenses are going to go down. Your income's going to go down if you choose to, exit full work. But your expenses are also going to go down because working is expensive. So this is where step number 2 comes in. So now that you have your baseline, step number 2 is to adjust for lifestyle changes, because believe it or not, your lifestyle will change once you become financially independent if you actually pursue that route. If you actually exit your job, if you actually plan on pursuing your passions or plan on, volunteering or plan on starting entrepreneurship, things like that, your lifestyle is going to change. So this is how I think you should adjust for your lifestyle. First off, you're going to need to reduce your work-related costs. Now, this is going to vary drastically depending on what you do for a living. So you're going to have to reduce costs such as commuting costs, costs that are specifically related to clothing that you buy at work, costs that are specifically related to eating out just because you're at work, with coworkers or, with clients or whatever it may be. So there's plenty of work-related costs that you should adjust down for. Then the next thing you can adjust for is going from 2 cars to 1 car. Especially, if you're a family on the path to financial independence, if you are spouses, then you probably have 2 cars because one of you has to go to work this way and one of you has to go to work this way. So once you become financially independent, you don't need to be going to work every day going this way and every day going this way as well. What you can do there is you can definitely drastically reduce your expenses by just going down to only 1 family car. And then another adjustment that you can probably make is moving into a smaller house. Whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids or don't. Most likely, if you're reaching that early retirement age, your kids are going to be older. Maybe some of them are going to be moving out. Maybe you don't have kids at all. But either way, you could probably reduce the size of your house once you become financially independent because you have more autonomy of where you choose to live. So maybe you want to adjust, if you choose to do so, you can adjust into moving into a smaller house because that's going to reduce pretty much all your housing related expenses if you move into a smaller house. And speaking of moving, you can also adjust your budget based on where you plan on moving to. If you plan on moving to somewhere that's actually more expensive, then you're going to have to adjust your FIRE budget up. If you plan on moving somewhere that's going to be lower cost of living, like I did, moving from Southern California to Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, then you're going to have to adjust your spending down because you can account for the local cost of living versus what you want your budget to be. And lastly, another great adjustment that you need to make is adjust your tax bill down. So if you account for your tax, like you're a tax bill in your spending, then you're going to be pleasantly surprised because once you become financially independent, your tax bill is most likely going to go all the way down to the floor, close to 0 hopefully, and actually it can definitely be 0 if you do some strategic tax planning. So your tax bill, you can account for those as well because you're going to be paying a lot less in taxes once you become financially independent. And then I have one more adjustment for you that you're going to need to make. And this adjustment is really easy to do. It only takes like 2 seconds to do. And that is adjusting yourself in order to hit the like button on this video. So please hit the like button if you're enjoying this video so far. It really does help me out and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, but let's move on to the next one. And the next thing that you need to know for building your FIRE budget is knowing the difference between your fixed expenses and your discretionary expenses. These are 2 different kinds of spending that you need to adjust for when you're building your FIRE budget. One of the most important concepts that you need to realize is that you want to get your fixed expenses, you want to get those fixed costs to be pretty much as low as possible where you're still having a high quality of life. Okay, and then the discretionary, you can add that in as much as you want to. But the whole point is that you want to have plenty of discretionary spending so that you can adjust it if you need to, especially if there's volatile swings in the market or there's unexpected expenses that come up in your life. So you do want to have a higher amount of discretionary spending or optional spending versus your fixed expenses. The fixed expenses are typically going to be things like utilities. Even though they can vary in price, you're pretty much going to have to pay utilities. You're probably not going to go without electricity and water. You're going to have to pay your property taxes. You're going to have groceries and things like that. So pretty much required expenses. You're pretty much going to have to spend some money on these, and those are generally what I consider to be your fixed expenses, things that you pretty much have to have. Now, everything else is known as discretionary. That's stuff that's going to add to your life, that's going to entertain you, that's give you some fun, or travel. That's going to be eating out and things like that. So that you can definitely have both of those in your budget, and you 100% should. But I also think that you should have plenty of other discretionary in addition to those fixed expenses, so that you have lots of flexibility in your budget. A general little rule that I like to follow is that I want about 50% of my budget to be discretionary, so technically discretionary. Now, there's plenty of things that I don't want to do without, that's in my discretionary spending. Like, ideally, I still want to have those, but if push comes to shove, as they say, I could get rid of some of those discretionary expenses for a little while something else is crazy is going on, and then I can adjust back to having them back. So for me personally, if I'm spending $2,000 per month in financial independence, 1,000 of them are going to be fixed expenses, and about 1,000 of it is going to be discretionary expenses. And that's what's really fun about financial independence and building your budget. It's a lot more fun because what really matters, all the small stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go and you spend your $5 on your coffee every day. It doesn't matter if you have a subscription service that costs you $2 per month for some magazine that you really like to look through. It doesn't matter. You don't have to cut any of those out. What really matters is the big picture. And that's what you really need to focus on when you're building your FIRE budget. What is your overall spending? Typically, what is your annual spending? What's your total annual spending? What is the goal that you want to achieve? How much do you want to spend annually? That's what you really need to dial in. Not so much every small little expense. What I like to do is just have a bunch of broad categories and just have them fit into my overall annual spending. And that's because many costs that you have are going to be variable. Life is unpredictable. Life is not a perfect fixed X amount of budget. And so even in my life, even though I chose around $24,000 as my arbitrary annual budget number, I know that it's going to fluctuate. More likely than not, it's going to fluctuate a little bit above that, right? But if you aim a little bit lower, it's not so bad if it goes over a little bit. It's not so bad if it ends up being $25,000. I can live with that. So that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the overall, what is your big picture spending? What are you trying to achieve? And the best way that I have found to solve my budget problems while I'm financially independent, and even on the path to financial independence, is to simply just have something that's very easy to use, that keeps track of everything for me. So I don't have to break out the spreadsheets and spend hours trying to calculate everything and make sure that I haven't missed anything. And the easiest way that I have found to do that is to use a free online software. So personally, I use Personal Capital. Personal Capital makes it very easy to manage your investments and very easy to manage your budget online. And the great thing about it is that it looks at the overall budget. So it looks at how much are you spending this month? How much are you spending this year? Not necessarily category by category, okay, so this was pet food, and this was pet supplies, and this was home supplies, and this was utilities. Now those are important. Those can be important if you're specifically trying to reduce expenses. Once you get to that baseline level of what you're doing, you want to look at the big picture. And I think that Personal Capital, their budgeting tools really help solve this. And it's a free online software. If you haven't used it, make sure you go to oncashflow.com/resources. Click the link through there and just check out the free software. You can sign up, link all your accounts on there, and you can try to check out the budgeting software on there. And if you do end up trying the software, it is completely free. It does help the channel out, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from oncashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.